Hello folks, welcome back to Wheels of Mercury. My name is Calvin and this video marks the official launch of a new segment called A.W.A.M, which stands for Albums Worth a Mention, where I go over albums that I haven't talked about yet on this channel. I actually did a video like this under a different, more clumsier name a long time ago, where I didn't show my face on the thumbnails and I did not script my videos either. So it's a long overdue resurrection of a dead segment basically. The albums I am going to be talking about are listed in chronological order and they can be from any genre. I will use this segment mainly to shed light on releases that have been rather underrated or overlooked by the general public, because there are a lot of artists and albums that never get the recognition they deserve. And I want to help them get their names and albums out there. Before I begin the list proper, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and let's get right to it. The first album that I think is well worth a mention is Virtual Utopia Experience by the acclaimed vaporwave trio Death Dynamic Shroud, released back in 2014. I haven't really talked about any type of vaporwave on this channel before, but this album is something else. It is a woozy, hypnotic, and very psychedelic album, combining the core principles of vaporwave, excessive sampling, hypnagogic 80s beats, and so on, with the denseness of neo-psychedelic music. Tracks like Bow and Arrow and Plaza Winds put me in these dreamy soundscapes as if I'm floating on a yacht in a multicolored tropical paradise powered by Windows 95. I almost forgot to mention that Death Dynamic Shroud has quite a unique way of doing albums. No release has all three members producing on it, with the exception of 2017's Heavy Black Heart. I showed this Venn diagram next to my head I found on Reddit to show you what I mean by all that. Virtual Utopia Experience, therefore, is member James Webster's creation, and he talks about it in more detail on Pat Chennington's video about the album, which I'll link down below in the description for you guys to watch it. If you are a vaporwave fan, or if you would like to get into this cool subgenre of electronic music, check out this album. And I recommend listening to it on headphones as well, because none of her music is blasted out loud at a party music. Maybe party clearing music, so still, check it out. The second LP that deserves a mention on the channel is Perpetua. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. The 2016 release by the Kentuckian black metal band Anagnorisis. This was the second and so far most recent release from these guys, as they have been weirdly radio silent since this came out. That is a very darn shame, because this is an incredible modern black metal album. It is themed around the lead singer Zach Kerr's childhood and the trauma he suffered at the expense of his parents back then, and the deep remorse he has for them now. There are actually audio snippets of him being interviewed as a kid and of his parents peppered throughout the songs that really give the record a lot of depth and personal meaning to it. And I imagine in that in particular. Instrumentally, there are a lot of sweeping dark soundscapes with strings, pipes, organ, big black gaze vibes, and some black and roll leaning moments here and there, and quite a mournful atmosphere overall. The other notable thing about this record is that it actually is designed to be played on a loop due to the ending track connecting back to the intro, similar to that cycle of going over traumatic memories. I know that this LP was criminally overlooked in many people's best of the 2010s list back when that decade was ending. And that is a freaking shame, because this is an emotional trip of a record. It's not a very easy recommendation given the subject matter, but still, it is well worth your time. Check it out. The next album I feel is worthy of me to talk about is Fleshletting, the 2019 debut from Swedish death metal band Wretched Fate. If you like HM2 chainsaw Stockholm style bands that sometimes do D-beats like Entombed and Bloodbath, then you're gonna love it. I could just end the review right there, but I want to try to expand on my point. These guys' version of HM2 death metal is slightly modernized production-wise, not to the point where it detracts from the music, but it's definitely there in the echo and the chorus on Only Death to Abide and the haunting themes on Fear Expulsion and on the closer Split Tongue Illumination. And these songs are catchy as hell. And that's not an easy feat in such a heavy genre. I still have the opening track chorus stuck in my head almost 3 years since I first heard it. That's how sticky they are. Overall, this is a fun, catchy hour of old school Swedish death metal that is very much recommended for your daily HM2 fix. Check it out. The fourth and last album I want to highlight is Realm Song, the 2021 release from American dungeon synth collective Sombre Arcane. Like Vaporwave, I haven't talked about dungeon synth much here on Wheels of Mercury, but that ends now. This release stands out in a micro-genre crowded with the same fantasy-themed synth and drum machine-led releases, in that it doesn't sound like a fantasy SNES game, like so many of them tend to fall under, in my honest opinion. Rather, these guys push the boundaries of dungeon synth by adding in hip-hop beats, harsh noise, live instruments, and even vocals on one track as well, creating a release that is much more in-depth than a lot of her contemporaries. It sounds like the soundtrack to the most insane science fiction / fantasy crossover movie never made, and it is an hour well spent. If you are bored with how flippy and bloopy dungeon synth can be, definitely give this thing a shot. It's well worth the listen. And that concludes my first A.W.A.M segment. I plan to do a ton more of these types of videos in order to put overlooked and underrated albums onto you guys' radar. What are some underrated or overlooked albums that you listen to? Let me know in the comments and I will try to mention them in a future A.W.A.M installment. Rock on, guys! Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.